Okay? All right, so let's start in. These problems are all mixed up. So we'll get a good review here, and I want to remind everybody that the exam is 20% of your grade. So if you do well, it can raise your grade. If you do poorly, it can lower your grade. All right? Anybody who is feeling hopeless because, oh my gosh, I have a 62%, there's no way. Remember, in this course, if you pass the exam, you'll pass the class. Okay? So if you're sitting there with a 62, we're done getting grades, so you failed. But if you pass the exam, you'll end up with a D minus. So if you want to make it through, and I would strongly suggest those of you in FBIL, and by the way, you have to have completed all the work for that to be a valid deal. So everything's got to be made up. And then if you pass the exam, you will pass the class. But remember, this is a graduation requirement. So to get your diploma, if you don't make it through, then you're going to be spending the summer doing math, okay? And no one wants to do that. I know. Yeah, no one wants to do that. So let's work really hard. Take advantage of all the review time to study. Let's see if we can pass this thing. All right, number one. Find the remainder of this division problem. Okay, how do we do that? Synthetic, that would be the easiest way, synthetic division. So out in the box is going to go a -2. And then I'm watching for zeros, right?
Yep.
There aren't any in this problem, but I need to pay attention to that. And the 4 comes straight down. So here we go. These numbers are getting kind of big. Now check my arithmetic. How does that look? Is that right?
You got it.
So what is the remainder? The remainder is -76. Now we have 2 problems that say find the y-intercept. Okay? By the way, what's been our deal all year? What's on the review is what's on the test. Have I kept my word about that?
Yes.
Have I ever surprised you? No, I'm not going to surprise you on the final exam. If you know how to do everything on the reviews, you are ready to go. So we gotta be able to find a y-intercept.
No, we just plug in 0.
Plug in 0, exactly. Those of you that don't know that, make a note. Plug in 0 for x. That's all you have to do. Let x be 0. So we have y equals 14 over 1 plus 3 times 0.8 to the 0th. Put in 0 for x. Now, what is anything to the 0th power? 1. So this is going to be 14 over 1 plus 3 times 1. What's 3 times 1? Plus 1. So this is 14 fourths, which we will reduce to 7 halves. B is the same question. Different equation, same question. How do we find a y-intercept? Plug in 0 for all of the x's. So 0 plus 3, 0 minus 2. What's 0 plus 3? 3 squared. What's 0 minus 2? Therefore, the y-intercept is -18. How do you find a y-intercept? Let x be 0. All right, now we got some function. And we're going to find f of x minus 1. We just plug that in for x. kids, it's exactly the same. If I said, find f of 5, what would you do? Wouldn't you put in 5s right here?
Yes.
So this is exactly the same thing, only you're putting in x minus 1s. So we're gonna have 3, putting them in here. X minus 1 squared plus 9, x minus 1 minus 2. Is that okay with everybody? Everybody see what we've done so far? All right, now we have to simplify it. So we're gonna start, remember PEMDAS, you're gonna start with your exponent. So you're gonna FOIL this. This is a FOIL. Okay, so we're gonna do x minus 1 times x minus 1. So go ahead and FOIL that. Tell me what you get. First, inside, outside, last. What do you get?
X squared minus 2x.
X squared minus 2x plus 1. Why is it minus 2x? Because you have a minus x and another minus x. Now that is still being times by 3. And we still have all the rest of it too. Alright, so now what do you think we're going to do? Distribute. So 3x squared minus 6x plus 3 plus 9x minus 9 minus 2. Now we will combine all of our like terms. So we don't have any other squareds. Okay. Negative 6, positive 9. You'll have a baby calculator. And then 3, negative 9, negative 2. Trying to see? And then you're done. You're done. Sometimes we get carried away and we look at that and say, oh, I can do the quadratic formula. You could, but no, it's not an equation. Your job was to figure out what do you get when you plug in x minus 1, and that's what you get. So this is done, finished. Okay. Anybody remember how to do 4? How do we find an inverse? There are some steps we have to do. Anybody remember what those steps are? Change the x's to y's. Yep, that's step 1, and vice versa. That's step 1. So the original problem is y equals 2x minus 1 over 6. So I'm going to change that to x equals 2y minus 1 over 6. And then get y by itself. So I'm going to multiply by 6. Add 1. And divide by 2. And that is my inverse. This is going to be a multiple choice question, so you're not going to write anything. You're going to pick the answer that's right. So if it's written with y equals, that's the answer. If it's written with f inverse, that's the answer. Huh?
Is there a difference between writing y equals f?
This is just the proper way to do it right here, because we're finding the inverse, so that notation tells me that's the inverse. Find the vertex. All right. This equation is an x squared X squareds are parabolas, and parabolas have a vertex. Anybody remember? We have a little formula. Anybody remember our little formula for finding the vertex? Uh-oh, no one remembers? Negative b over 2a? So x equals negative b over 2a. So for us, that will be positive 6 over 6. Because a is 3 and b is negative 6. So that is 1. But your vertex, remember, is a point. Now we know the x is 1. Then we plug that in. So we plug in 1. Remember PEMDAS, you guys. Remember PEMDAS. What's 1 squared?
1,
Times 3.
3,
So that's 3. That is not 9. You square the 1 and then times by 3.
negative
Alright, minus 6 plus 1, that looks like
Negative
negative 2.
Yep.
So that's your vertex. So all of you need to get stuck in your brain. How do you find the vertex? X equals negative b over 2a. Alright, here's a solve. Now this one is a solve. So we're gonna end up with x equals, that's our goal. What does x equal? How do you solve a squared equation like this? Someone knows the answer to this one. Quadratic formula? Absolutely. If it factors, I don't think this one does. I don't think it does. I think the signs are wrong. I don't think that factors because they both have to be minus. And you gotta have a 5 in there. So that would give me my 2x squared and my positive 5, but it also gives me a negative 7 in the middle. There's no way to make it work. If you're thinking this, that will give you negative 3, but it won't give you positive 5. So nope, this doesn't factor. This does not factor. Remember, kids, if you're going to factor, double check it. Make sure you're right. This one does not factor. So what's my quadratic formula? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You gotta have that memorized. You should have had that memorized by now. But if you don't, that's another thing you wanna stash up here. You gotta know your quadratic formula. A is 2, B is negative 3, and C is 5. So, what have we got? That is 40. 9 minus 40, negative 31? No. You're going to have your, the exam will be just like yesterday's test. So, you will have a baby, and that will be that kind of particular.
Oh, yeah.
So what do we do with the negative there? What do you do when you take the square root of the negative? Oh, yeah. So that would be the final answer.
How will it work with like calculators up here?
Same way. The directions are exactly the same.
I know, so will there be baby calculators at
Yeah, they have them in the LRC. Okay, all right, number 7. Oh, everybody should get this one right, because this is brand new material. When we say write as a single logarithm, that your answer is going to be, this is an ln, so it's gonna be ln one thing. All right, what is the one thing? Well, let's see. We've got a 7 and a Q and a C. What is happening with the 7 and the Q?
They're being multiplied.
They're being multiplied. What is happening with the C?
It's being divided.
Divided. So I have 7Q over C. But there's one more thing I have to deal with. The 2 in front of the Q means it is Q squared. When the individual pieces are added, we put them together with a multiplication. All right, number 8, another one that's like on the tip of your tongue, hopefully. What do we do here? 4 to the second equals x plus 5. 4 to the second. Some of you, I don't know where it's coming from. You're getting that backwards. Start here. 4 to the second equals x plus 5. So 16 equals x plus 5, and it looks like your answer is 11. List the PRRs. Possible rational roots. All right, so I don't know what that last number is, so I'm going to make something up. 3x to the 4th minus 8x squared plus 9x, let's say minus 2. And we want the PRRs for that. Okay. PRRs are plus or minus. Please don't forget that. If you forget that, you lose half credit because you missed half the answers. Plus or minus. Factors of 2, which are 2 and 1, over factors of 3, which are 3 and 1. And it says list them. So what numbers do I actually have here? Well, I have plus or minus 2 over 3, 1 over 3, 2 over 1, and 1 over 1. Here's your list. We're required as pre-calculus teachers, there's AP, academic, and CP, and we have to have questions in common. I mean, like, you're gonna have some, the AP kids will have some of the same questions you have. We have to have some in common. This is a common question. So it's going to be graded the same by all of us. And it says, list, this is a correct answer. If you put that, you're not gonna get full credit. All right? So this is how you start, factors of 2 over factors of 3, but you have to list it. All right? Okay, consider the square root function. Oh boy. This is where you're going to have to do some review, probably. Because as much time as we spent on the BFFs, you may have forgotten them. Anybody remember what the square root function looks like? That's really what I need to answer the question. What does it look like, square root?
On the graph?
What's it look like?
It's just.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Eric says it looks like this. It's this one. That's the square root function. So we need to talk about its range, zeros, intercepts, increasing, decreasing, asymptotes, and bounded. All right, so let's not freak out because we've got a bunch of math words up here. Let's not freak out. That's that's the picture of it. What is the domain? What x's, domain is x, what x's are graphed? Are all of them graphed, both ways? Nope, where did we start? At 0, and then went to infinity, forever? So my domain is 0 to infinity. Okay? Start at 0, all the way to infinity. Now what about my range, my up and downs? Where do I start? What's my lowest point? 0. And what's my highest point? Infinity. So the domain and range are the same. That is not true of all of the functions, but it is true of this one. Who remembers what we mean by zeros? What's another word for zeros? You got it. X-intercepts. Where do we touch the x-axis? Okay, where do we touch the x-axis? One place, 0, 0. Remember when we did our polynomials, guys? They had multiple zeros, multiple x-intercepts. This one has just one. So, that its x-intercept is at 0. That is the same thing. That this is an x-intercept. What's my y-intercept? Same point. So that point is both the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Would you say this picture, when you draw it, is increasing or decreasing? Increasing. Increasing means it goes up. Decreasing means it goes down. So if you look at your parabola, this part of it is actually decreasing, but this part of it is increasing. The parabola does both. This function only goes up. This has no asymptotes. What is an asymptote? An asymptote is a line like this, right?
Yep.
Well, I don't have that in that picture. And then bounded. Bounded, remember, means just that, it's bounded. So does this thing have a ceiling and or a floor and a ceiling? Does it have either one? It has a floor. Does it go all the way down to the basement? No, doesn't it stop right here?
Yep.
So it's bounded below. Does it have a ceiling? No. So it's not bounded above. Think of your logistic function, if you remember that one. Is this one bounded below? Yeah. And also bounded above. So bounded just means ceiling and floor. This one has a floor, it has a low point, but it doesn't have a high point. Okay? All right, now, I think that squiggly line means now we need our calculator. So we're gonna solve this equation. So this is brand new stuff. You should remember. You would say bounded above or bounded below. This one is bounded below. If you say bounded, that means both. But we'll say bounded below for that one. Okie dokie, Smarties. How do you solve this equation? This is a calculator problem. ln both sides. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Everybody in this room should have looked at the equation and said, oh my gosh, the exponent is the variable. That means I need logarithms. Period. You need logarithms. Since we have an e in the problem, instead of LOGing, we will LN. Now, some of you are so excited excited about canceling these out that you forget you still have an ln over here. This is ln 11 over here. This side is 3x plus 4. So 3x equals ln 11 minus 4. And then we're gonna divide by 3.
Yep.
So on my calculator, I have ln 11, close the parentheses, minus 4 equals, divided by 3. Negative 0.534. Type it in again if you didn't get that. ln 11, close parentheses, minus 4 equals, divided by 3.
Yep.
The next problem is going to be a PERT problem. How do I know that?
Growth constant.
It's bacteria,
Yep.
right? And the other formula is only used with money. So I know it's PERT. I want 123 to grow into 567. Now the growth constant is given as a percent. So when I put it into my formula, I have to move the decimal point. So 0.112. I move the decimal point on percents. Everybody good with the setup?
Yep.
All right, so now, what do I do first?
Divide 123.
Divide by 123. Yeah, now it looks just like this one we just did. Right, see where your variable is?
Yep.
So we'll ln both sides. This, of course, will cancel. So we have ln 567,123 equals 0.112t. And then we'll divide by 0.112. All right, type that in, see if you can get the right answer. Type it in here.
13.64.
Let's see, ln. 13.6444?
Years.
13.
Actually, I think that one was not years, I think that one would be days.
Days.
Yeah. Okay, now I put, there's one box problem on the exam. Guaranteed test question, there's one box problem on the exam, okay? I put 3 down here, we don't need to do all 3, but let's do 1 to make sure we know what we're doing. So, yeah, we're gonna make the box, remember we're doing this. We don't know how big these corners are, we're gonna cut them out. And the paper is 20 by 14 in the first example. The paper's 20 by 14. All right, it's a 3-part question. First question is, what's our equation? What's our volume going to be? Our volume equation, y equals what?
First one's like times.
Oh, no one remembers? Oh, man, you guys got a busy weekend ahead of you. Remember 20 minus 2x, 14 minus 2x, times X. Y. Well, volume is length times width times height. The paper started out as 20, but we cut an X off here and an X off here. So this is now 20 minus the two X's. And this is 14 minus the two X's. When I fold up the flaps, this becomes the height. X becomes the height. So that's the volume of the box. Now, and that's Y equals that. All right, so now I need my domain. Domain is what can X be? Anybody remember anything about that? What? Well, actually, it has to be less than half of 14, because it's the smallest dimension, remember? So X has to be bigger than 0, but smaller than 7. Because remember, this paper's only 14 wide. If you're gonna cut equal pieces off each side, this is 14. Could you take 8 and 8? No. Half is 7. So whatever you pick has to be a number less than 7. But bigger than 0, obviously, because you can't cut a negative. So that's my domain. So now I'm going to graph it on my calculator and find the X that maximizes the volume. So I'm going to go to Window. X min is 0. X max is 7. Y min is 0 because Y is the volume. Volume can't be negative. And then remember, what do we do with Y max? We just guess something, don't we? And then remember what happens? I gotta type my equation in, but when I graph, remember what happens? We get something that looks like this, and we're looking for that right there. And so if I pick a number, I'm just gonna pick 100. If I don't see the top, then I have to go back in and pick a bigger number. You guys, we did all this. Don't stare at me blankly.
Yep.
All right, so now I gotta put in my equation. So Y equals, I got some stuff in there I gotta get cleared out. All right, in the parentheses, 20 minus 2x, 14 minus 2x, and x. And hit graph. Oh, no, 100 wasn't near big enough. Sorry, go back, I'm gonna make that a 500.
500.
That'll work. So I made my Y max 500, and now I see a picture that looks like this.
What was the one?
Huh?
What was the one?
0. Volume can't be negative. Okay. Now, I'm gonna find my maximum. So second calc maximum. And then I gotta set my left bound and my right bound. And see if you got for your maximum 2.704 and 339.01. Okay? I say second calc, it's second trace, it's the calc button. You pick maximum, then you set your left bound and your right bound, and you take a guess, and that's what you should come up with. Okay? All right, let's do one more. Let's go ahead and do 2. And see if you can do it all by yourself. You're gonna go through the exact same steps. The only difference is the paper is now 36 by 24. All right, so Let's take a couple minutes, go through the exact same steps. Help each other if you get stuck. Make sure you type in your new equation.
Analysis.
And I didn't talk about this with the first two we did. It says find the size of the notch. So that would be your X value. X is the size of the notch you're heading at. So your calculator's gonna give you an ordered pair, but you want X. The Y is the volume. All right, anybody got this one? Anybody got an answer yet? Leilani?
I got X equals 4.7048, and then Y equals 1825.
You got it right. Yep, so your X value is 4.708. 4.708 is your X value, and your Y value, which is not the answer. The answer is, what's the size of the notch? So that would be 4.708 inches. Okay? All right, now, your other review sheet, there are actually two practice exams here. And they are clearly, or maybe not. Some of the stars got cut off. I starred the calculator problems on the first one, and then I separated them like the exam will be on the second one. And some of the stars got cut off. So we'll talk about those as we go. Okay? All right, now, I want you to go ahead and get started on the first review. Get started on the first review there. And anybody who forgot how to find the maximum on your calculator, you need to come up here and I will walk you through it one time. This will be a free response question on the exam. It'll be worth a lot of points.